بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. As Brother Ajmal mentioned last week, we began what is going to be a series of talks trying to get the community acquainted with many aspects of the personality of Al-Mustafa Al-Amin Al-Aqib sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We mentioned to the brothers who were here last week and the sisters as well that a lot of the kuffar who are in our community, our neighbors, co-workers, many of them are the victims of the false propaganda of the media about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many of them believe and they think that he was an individual who was a warmonger, that he was barbaric, that he was a bloodthirsty individual. And as I mentioned, they're victims of their own ignorance. They're victims of being caught in the grasp of what the media tries to project concerning his personality and his reality, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, Muslims themselves have something to do with the false understanding that non-Muslims have about him, in that we find Muslims killing each other, the sectarian fighting that's taking place around the globe. Kuffar say if the truth was with these people, then why are they like that? Every place where they come from, Somalia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, Libya, place of turmoil. We Christians who believe that Jesus is the truth and he's the Son of God and the messenger sent to us, you don't find the type of wars going on with Christians like you do with Muslims. And when things happen and Muslims want to protest and to show the West that they're not happy with different things that transpire from the non-Muslims, like let's draw Muhammad Day. Muslims stormed the embassies across the globe. They burnt down property. They killed innocent people. They killed volunteers of the Red Cross who are in Muslim countries trying to help Muslims. They killed the priest. They killed the nun. So the non-Muslims say, look at these people. This is the Muhammadans. These are the Muslims. So the people they don't know. And then a few weeks ago, as you all know, there was the Mawlid of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the people were celebrating his birth with the claim that they love him. But if you were to look at what he called to in terms of the Tawheed, worshiping Allah, you'll find these people are diametrically opposed to what the Prophet was upon, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People coming together, eating sweets, candy and cake and food, having a party with lights. They don't pray. They don't know anything about the deen of Allah. They just pomp, glitter, and circumstance. That's it. So what we want to do in this series, inshallah, is to dispel those rumors and also to elucidate for you brothers and sisters an aspect of the personality of the Nabi, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are many aspects, but we're focusing upon the Rahmah. He is, wallahi, Nabiur Rahmah, the Nabi of Ar-Rahmah. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned many ayahs of the Quran, like the statement of Allah Ta'ala, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. It was a Rahmah, Ya Muhammad. It's a Rahmah from Allah that you were easy with them. If you were rough and tough with them, they would have run away from you, meaning the companions. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, those women, if you were rough and tough, they would run away. And some of us, Husbands, some of us husbands, if you're rough and tough with your children, especially when they hit the formidable years of being teenagers, your daughters, they become 13, 14, 15 in this society. If you don't mix toughness with love, tough love, if you don't mix those two ingredients together, Allah knows best, but you run the risk of running your child away from you and this deen. Because that would have been the natural response. People don't want to be dealt with in a negative way, rough and tough. Your wife doesn't want to be dealt with rough and tough. The lady who can't control her temper, can't control herself, her emotions. Her husband doesn't want to deal with her. Children don't want to deal with her. The Nabi was a Nabi of Rahmah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah Ta'ala mentioned another ayat. Many ayat of the Quran, He mentioned about the Nabi, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْكُمْ عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. There has come to you people a Rasul from yourselves, a Bashar, a human being. He's not from the Nur of Allah. He's not from the Nur of Allah. He's not from the Malaika. He's not a jinn. He's a human being. It bothers him anything that distresses you people. Anything right now in the audience, right now. Someone is going to get kicked out of college. He's worried. Someone, he needs some money to pay some bill. Someone is in debt. Someone, he has some medical issues. Someone has some psychological issues. Someone is on the verge of getting divorced. Anyone who has some drama, some static, some beef in his life, if the Nabi knew about that, he would be disturbed. Because he cared for each and every believer. As Allah mentioned in that ayat. So many ayat. So many ayat. And from those ayat was a statement of Allah Azza wa Jal when He said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَى رَحْمَةٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And this is very important that you understand this point. We have not sent you, Ya Muhammad, except as a rahmah to the alameen. Now, Abdullah, Muslim, if someone asked you, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Surah Al-Fatiha. No matter how good a person is in practicing Islam, and no matter how far he is from the deen. Some people get high, they smoke, they drink, they gamble, they don't do anything. They wilding out. If you say, come here, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You heard that before? Every Muslim is going to say yes. But what does it really mean? Allah said in that ayat, we have sent you as a rahmah to the alameen. Al-alameen is everything in the creation except Allah. That's the definition. So when we come at the end of this class, we say, Akhi Abdullah, alameen, that Islamic word, that Arabic word. What is the meaning of it? Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Alameen is everything other than Allah. Allah is over His throne and everything else is created. Allah is Al-Khaliq. He created everything. Al-Ilah, the God who's worshipped. He is the Rabb. Everything else, His throne, His kursi, the heavens, the earth, the angels, the jinn, the fish, mankind, the trees, everything is alameen. Allah said in this ayat that the Prophet was sent as a rahmah to the alameen. He's a rahmah to the jinn. He's a rahmah to the malaika. He's a rahmah to insects. We're going to come inshallah in this series and show you just hadith how the Nabi was a mercy to insects, a mercy to animals, a mercy to women, a mercy to children, the adolescents, a mercy to the elderly, a mercy to the handicapped, how He was a mercy to the family of the deceased, how He was a mercy to people who made sins, how He was mercy to the people who were ignorant, how He was mercy to people who were majnoon and sick, how He was mercy on and on and on and on. He's the rahmah to the alameen. Someone say to the alameen, everything? Wallahi, the Prophet was a rahmah to everything because Allah said it. But there's another example we can give that everyone knows. When he made hijrah to Al-Medina and he was given the khutbah of Al-Jum'ah, one of the community members, he was a carpenter. His job was to build things. He wanted to use his skills for Al-Islam. And so he said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm going to make for you a mimbar better than the mimbar that you had. The Nabi was using a piece of wood that was raggedy. It was rickety, raggedy. He just used it, got on top of it, he will give the mimbar. That community member said, I'm going to use my skills to help the community. Make a nice mimbar so that you can represent. When the mimbar was made, the man put the mimbar there, and they took the old one, they put it over there in the corner of the masjid. The Nabi on the Friday, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khutbah al-Jummah, he started giving the khutbah. When he started talking, the people were looking at him, and then they heard a noise coming from the corner over there, moaning. Everybody looked over there, and they wondered what's going on. The Nabi got off of the mimbar, he walked over to the old mimbar and started rubbing it, and then it went quiet. He came back to the new mimbar and said, it's missing me. It's missing me. Now this is an inanimate object, dead. Doesn't have life as such, but it cares about the sunnah. It cares about the Nabi of al-Islam. Guy, his mother, his father, name him Muhammad. But the guy, he grows up and he's embarrassed and shy to let kuffar know. My name is Muhammad. This is my religion. I'm a Muslim. I have to pray. No, don't call me Mo. Don't call me Mo. My name is not Muhammad, not Muhammad. My name is Muhammad. When things happen, we defend the Nabi. We work on his sunnah. We call to his sunnah. We love his sunnah even if you don't do it. Some man came and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I can't do everything you're doing. You do a lot. Fast every Friday and Thursday and Monday. You make a camel layl. You do this, you doing it. I can't do all of that. So, but I love you. I love you. The Nabi told him, Al-mar'u ma man ahab. You'll be with those who you love. The important thing is don't be of the people who come and say, it's just the sunnah. It's just the sunnah. And even worse, those people who come and say, I don't take the sunnah. You're not even a Muslim if you don't take a sunnah. You're a kafir and you won't be able to practice this religion at all. You won't be able to practice it. You're lying. If you say, I just take the Quran, the sunnah have weak hadith and you don't know what's correct and what's incorrect. So the point here is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a rahmah to all of the worlds. A rahmah. All of those ayat, some of which I mentioned and many that we left, and many of the ahadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw a group of people who became Muslims and they came to Medina. He pulled that man out and he said to that man, after observing him and watching him, Inna fika khaslatain yuhibbuhum Allah. You have two characteristics that Allah loves. He said, what are they, Ya Rasulullah? He said, al-hilm wal-anat. You're halim. You're gentle with people. You're easy. You're not mutashaddid. You're not rough. Now don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. It's okay to be rough sometimes. You have to be rough sometimes. The religion, when you get your hand chopped off, when the person is stoned to death, when a person is put in prison, jihad, this roughness is a rahmah as well. But we'll come to that down the line, inshallah. How the legislation of al-Islam is rahmah. So the point here is, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam established in this hadith that Allah loves the person who is halim. He is halim and he loves the people who are the hulama. Gentle with your children, gentle with the wife, gentle with the neighbor, gentle with the one you're giving dawah to. Gentle, gentle, gentle. And that was the Nabi identifying that particular characteristic. So last week, our talk was about how he was a rahmah to his enemies. We gave about 6 or 7 examples, practical examples, not theoretic examples. We can mention those ayat and those ahadith. The Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Inna Allah qad harrama an-nar ala kulli hayyin layyin basit. Allah has made the hellfire haram for every person who is easy going with the people, and easy and gentle on himself, and he's simple. Another hadith showing that the Nabi was guiding people, be gentle, take it easy. Take it easy. Don't be shadid. Let your nature not be a nature in which you can't smile, you can't forgive, you can't pardon. You're always ready to curse, to swear, to slap, get physical. Don't be like that. But those ahadith and ayah, they are theoretical. You can appreciate them in your mind. We gave a number of examples of how he systematically and consistently pardoned his enemy. People who were trying to kill him. People who were trying to do him harm and evil. And he had the ability to exact punishment and revenge. But he would let them go consistently. So it leaves no room for doubt. Was the Nabi really a person of rahmah? Again, if a person showed rahmah to an individual who's his enemy once, that's a good trait. Just to do it once. The community will say, that's a good guy. Look what he did. But he did it consistently. And we gave those examples. Today, inshallah, we want to take another segment of the community. The community during his time. How he was a rahmah to the slaves of his time. Now, when we talk about the slaves, this is just for your understanding here. I'm not calling anyone to slavery. Don't leave here and say Abu Usamah, say, yeah, we should take people as slaves. I didn't say that. During the time of Nabi, there were slaves. And slavery is mentioned in the Quran and is mentioned in the Sunnah. Ya ayyuhan Nabi, inna ahlalna laka azwajaka allati atayta ajuruhunna wa ma malakat yaminuka. Allah has made halal for you to marry the women who you married, your wives, and He has made it halal for you to marry your right-hand possessions, your slaves. And then the ayat went on to saying you can marry your cousins from your uncles and your aunties, and all the people were mentioned. The last words that came out of the mouth of the Nabi, if someone were to ask you, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said to the people, you want to know the last words that came out of the mouth of the Nabi? After 23 years of dawah, 13 years in Mecca, 10 in Medina, the last words before he died. You want to know those words? They say yes. He said that the Nabi was asleep. He was sick. He was about to die, and then he lost consciousness. He opened up his eyes and he said to the people, As-salatu salat wa ma malakat aymanakum. Take care of the prayer, take care of the prayer. And take care of your right-hand possessions, your slaves. And then he lost consciousness. Time went by, he woke up. He said a second time, As-salat as-salat wa ma malakat aymanakum. The same thing. Take care of the prayer, take care of the prayer. And take care of your right-hand possessions. He lost consciousness. The third time he woke up, he said, As-salat as-salat wa ma malakat aymanakum. Take care of the prayer, take care of the prayer, and your right-hand possessions. And then he died. So the very last words that came out of his mouth, wa ma malakat aymanakum. Take care of your right-hand possessions. Meaning, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah is going to ask everybody here about his salah. Why would that be the last word that came out of his mouth? He knew the importance of the salah. And as a rahmah to his community, he guided them and encouraged them, pay attention to this issue, because he knew we won't be able to do it. He knew that the majority of the Muslims wouldn't be able to do it. Not because he knew the ilm al-ghaib, but Allah told him a lot of things that were going to happen to this ummah. And one of the things that's going to happen to this ummah, as he was informed, is that the people will leave aspects of their religion. And from the aspects of the deen that have been lost, it's the salah. But the point here is, he said, what your right hands possess. So he himself, he had 4 slave girls. One, her name was Maria, the Coptic, the mother of Ibrahim, his son. Another one, her name was Rayhana. Another one, her name was Jamila. And the fourth one was a slave girl that his wife, our mother Zainab bint Jash, gave the Nabi as a gift. Here, this slave girl is for you. He had 4. But he had a number of slaves, a number of free ones. He freed them all before he died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From them was Zayd ibn Haritha. From them was a man by the name of Thoban. If you have one thob, a thob. If you have 2 thob, it's Thoban, 2 thobs. His name was Thoban. Whenever the Nabi addressed him, showing his sense of humor, before addressing the man, he would say, وَلَيْسَ لِكُلِّ أَحَدٍ ثَوْبَيْنِ. He wants to tell the man something and say, hey, Thoban. And everyone doesn't have 2 thobs. And he would make that joke with him every time he wanted to address him. Again, gentleness. There's some people who don't ever joke. They look like this. And if you crack a joke that makes sense and it's funny, and you shouldn't fall out laughing, he'll say to you, what are you joking for? Life is too short to joke. No, the Nabi used to joke, Yahi, lighten up, lighten up. The Nabi had a sense of humor. So Thoban was his slave. Another man, his name, the Nabi called him Safina. Safina means a ship. He called him Safina because the man was strong. He can carry a lot of stuff. So the Nabi lovingly gave him that nickname, Safina. He had a slave, and we talked about him in this class as well. His name was Anjasha. Anybody remember Anjasha? Who was Anjasha, my man? Nah, Anjasha was a slave of the Nabi. So the point here is, nobody should come and say, slavery. What are you talking about, slavery? Slavery is in the Bible. Slavery is in the Torah and the Injil. I'm not saying we want people to be slaves. I'm not saying that. The point is, the slave, he's in the society, and he's from the weak people of the society. And the Nabi defended him. And the Nabi took care of the slave. As you're going to see. So we're just using this category of people to show you his level of rahmah. If someone was weak from this community, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sensitive to his or her situation. He told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ala inni uharriju alaykum haqq ad-da'ifain, al-yatim wal mar'a. I want you people to be conscious, to be sensitive of the rights of the two weak groups of the community. Be aware of the rights of the two weak people. He said the two weak people were the orphan. His father's not on the scene to take care of him. This man right here, he has his sons there. Come here. He's going to protect the rights of his sons, the best of his ability. He hears there are problems in the school that warrant his attendance. He's going to go to the school. Someone from the family, member, extended family, bothering his kids, going to take care of the rights of it. And you're going to do the same thing. The orphan, he doesn't have anyone to fend for him. The yatim, no one. The Nabi said, be sensitive to him. Don't oppress him. And the second one is the woman. The woman, she's oppressed. Westerners, Americans, Muslims, the woman is oppressed. She's forced to get married. If she gets divorced or she gets widowed, they won't let her get married again. They don't give her a haq. Some cultures, what they do is, in that culture, unfortunately, they do a khitan on the girl. They do a circumcision on the girl. Muslims in East Africa do a circumcision on the girl. She didn't ask for that. Crazy stuff. So the Nabi used to be sensitive to people who are weak. From the weak people, the slave. So let's take a look at some of these examples, and they are many, many, many. Just the slave. How the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam had rahmah upon those slaves. There was an ayat in the Quran that was revealed in Surah Al-Ahzab, in which some of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, they used to force the slave girls to continue to do prostitution. So the man, he has slaves, 10, 15, 20, 30 women, 100 men, whatever the denomination. He has slaves. They're going to work for him in Islam. Some of the slave girls, the munafiqeen, not the good Muslims, the companions, the hypocrites, they would make the slave girl go out and do prostitution and bring the money back. And if she didn't, he would kill her. So she was compelled. She was forced. And she would do it out of fear. So Allah Azza wa Jalla revealed the ayat of the Quran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la tukrihu fatiyatikum ala al-bigha in aradna tahassana litabtagu arad al-hayat ad-dunya wa man yukrihunna finna Allah min ba'di ikrahihinna ghafur rahim. Oh, you believe. Don't compel the slave girls who are believers. Don't compel them to go and to do this thing. Don't make them do that. Seeking to get the hayat of the dunya. And any of you who makes them do it because they're being compelled, they're being forced, Allah is Ghafur Rahim to them. So that ayah goes to show, if a Muslim is forced to do something, he's going to lose his life, his limb, his property, and he's forced to do something. drink khamar, he's forced. He can't get out of it. He's forced. Allah is Ghafur Rahim. If you're compelled, we have to get. If you're driving, you have to get insurance. You have to get it. Allah is Ghafur Rahim because there's no way out of that issue. So this class is not about that, but that's important. That's one of the benefits of that ayah. Those girls were doing something terrible, bad, but because they were compelled, they'll get killed if they didn't listen. Allah said He was Ghafur Rahim too. But the point we want to use from it is how Al-Islam came to take care of the rights of those people. When that ayat was revealed, the Nabi came to the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he addressed them and he told them, no one should do this to their slave girls. And anyone who doesn't, it's a sign that you don't have iman. Something's wrong with you. And because of that, the munafiqeen didn't want to get exposed, so they left the issue alone. That was the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam looking after the rights of these women who were trying to practice their Islam, although they were weak, and he stepped in, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another example, Sahih Bukhari. There was a companion, his kunya is Abu Mas'ud. He's from the Ansar. He said one day he was very upset, and he was slapping his slave, getting with him, beating him. Then he heard a voice from behind him saying, hey, Abu Mas'ud. He said, I didn't recognize the voice, and I didn't pay attention to it because I was overcome with anger, and I kept hitting him. He said, and then I felt that the voice got close, and it said, oh, Abu Mas'ud. He said, but I still didn't pay attention because I was upset. He said, and then the voice was right there next to me. And he said, oh, Abu Mas'ud. And I looked, and it was the Nabi, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the Prophet said to me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Inna Allah aqdaru alayka minka ala hadha al-ghulam. Hey, Abu Mas'ud, Allah has more power over you than you do over this boy. Now, this is something we have to remember. The slave, all he's going to do is like this to the master, because if he gets aggressive, he'll lose his life in that society. Slave is not going to touch his master. So he's hitting the boy, hitting him. The Nabi said, Allah has more power over you than you do over that slave. So in the audience, we take one of these little kids. Ibrahim, stand up for a minute. Come here, hurry up. Hurry up, chop, Ibrahim. Look, Ibrahim, my little brother, just example, relax, calm down, okay? I'm going to take Ibrahim, and I'm going to squeeze his neck and pop his head, and I can do it. Ibrahim can't do anything to me, except if Allah wanted it, right? I'm going to do this to Ibrahim. I don't think Ibrahim can do anything. Be careful. Allah has more power over me than I do over that kid. So those of us who are fathers, and we grew up with fathers who all they knew was hitting you upside your head. Those of us who have mothers and all we knew were mothers, that's all they knew. Throwing the iron at you and throwing glasses at you and just going crazy, throwing scissors at you, that's all you know. If that parent is in the audience, you should remember, when you deal with your children like that, when you deal with people like that, Allah has more power and ability over you than you do over the child. And it goes to the insects as well. There's the ant crawling on the desk, and I can take that insect and I can smash him. He's not bothering me. I can smash him for no reason. Allah has more power over me than I do over that insect, because I can't raise my hand without Allah allowing it. I can't hit the ant without Allah allowing it. That's the point that you have to always remember. In dealing with people, Allah has more power over you. Now, don't get crazy here. Some people now, they may have roaches, they may have mice in the house, and he said, no, let the mice run free. Allah rahmah with the mice. No. That's not what we're saying. That's not the point here. Get rid of the mice. You have roaches, get rid of the roaches. But if you have the ability to throw the spider out as opposed to killing him, that's ibadah in al-Islam. I have the ability to kill him, but I don't. Because the hadith said, if you have mercy on those who are in the earth, the one who is in the heavens will have mercy on you. He said in a hadith, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, man kadhima ghaydan wa huwa qadirun ala an yunfidhahu خيره الله تعالى يوم القيامة على رؤوس الخلائق يختار من الحور عين ما يشاء. Anyone in this dunya who has the ability to execute his anger, he has the ability on his wife, he can hit her, he can deal with her, on his child, whether it's right or wrong, he can do it, right or wrong. He wants to beat his child, and the child deserves it. The Prophet said anyone who has the ability to exercise his anger on someone and he does it, he intentionally or she intentionally holds back, Yawmul Qiyamah, that person will be able to choose, the man will be able to choose any of the hura'in that he wants. So the point here is, have Rahman those who are in the earth, human beings, insects, animals, and Allah Azza wa Jal will have Rahmah upon you as well, now in the dunya and in the hereafter. Another example, Ikhwani, and there are many examples, is what Anas ibn Malik said about the Nabi and describing him in Sahih Bukhari. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Anas said, كانت الأمة من أماء أهل المدينة لتأخذ بيد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فتنطلق به حيث شاءت. The slave girl during the time of the Nabi, the lady who's a slave, would come up to the Nabi. Now you have to look at this in the backdrop and the context and from the prism of how busy he was. He was the imam. He was the khatib. He was the military leader. He was the judge. He was the teacher. He was the one leading the salat. He was the father, the husband, the grandfather, the friend. He was the nephew. Everybody needed him. I'm tired right now from what I had to do today. But I know that my day in comparison to what were the demands of the Nabi pale in comparison. No comparison. And that's why the Nabi Abdullah ibn Abbas said he was given the strength of 30 men. He wasn't a normal person. He was strong physically because he had a heavy weight to carry. Anyway, with all of that busyness and all of those things that he had to do, Anas ibn Malik said that the slave girl will walk up to him and grab him by the shirt and pull him away from the people just to have a private discussion with him. He's here sitting with the men, Abu Bakr, Abdurrahman bin Auf, major people, rich people, important people. The slave girl will come, say, Ya Rasulullah, I need to talk to you. He said, okay. She would take his shirt and pull him to get away from the people and start talking about her issue. Now, where we come from. How many of you have been back in Pakistan? Put your hand up if you've been in Pakistan. Put your hand up high. Let me see. Okay, put your hands down. Try to put up the right hand all the time, not the left hand. The left hand is the doo-doo hand. Put up the right hand. Back in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, in Afghanistan, in Muslim countries in Africa, we don't have slaves, but we have house help. House help. The house help, they're not slaves. They're the house help. The house help, where we come from, Pakistan and stuff like that, they're treated like dirt. And you know that. They don't get their wages. And those who do receive their wages, they're late. And sometimes the girls are taken advantage of. In the Gulf states, it's a terrible situation. My brother-in-law came from Kenya to work in Medina. He never goes to the haram, ever. He can't go to the haram because he's working 7 days a week and he's been there for like 6 years and he gets his check every 8 months. What he's faced with? Going back to Kenya where there's no money. Or being there, staying in a room with 10, 12, 13, 15 people. On a dispatches program, and I don't believe in everything in dispatches, but they had a special program about the Gulf Arabs who are in London and some of the atrocities that they committed on their maids. The lady, they broke her back. The back. She had a broken back. Come on, man. To that degree, you don't want her. Why are you abusing the lady till you broke her back? Another lady had water thrown on her. And I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia is the worst country. I'm not saying that. The point is, Pakistan, everywhere, the way we treat our house help. They're not even slaves. But we treat them lesser than what the slave has as right in the deen of Allah. But the Prophet ﷺ, as I mentioned to you, he was an individual who would allow that lady to take him to the side and to talk. Now, can you imagine the house help in your house back in Pakistan? The girl who irons and washes and sweeps, she comes to the leader of the house, the father, whoever in charge of the house, and say, excuse me, can I speak to you? And then pull him and go to the side. She better not touch him. But with the Nabi, it wasn't like that. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Another example, Ikhwani, and there are many, many examples. We're almost done here because there's too many examples to exhaust the time. Is what happened with Abu Dhar. Abu Dhar al-Ghifari was one of the major companions of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he was a Zahid. He was seen by one of the Tabi'een. His name is Ma'rur. He had a very nice jubba on. Very, very expensive and nice one like you wear for the Eid day. But it wasn't the Eid. And next to him was his slave with a similar jubba, very expensive. And he was a slave. When the man said that, he said, what's going on, Abu Dhar? He said, I criticized the man, Bilal ibn Rabah, the mu'adhin of the Nabi. I criticized him because of his color. I called him son of a black lady. It's like the N-word, calling him the derogatory word. You N-word, you nigga, like that. He meant it in a derogatory way. And then that man, Bilal, went to the Nabi and told the Nabi what happened. And then the Nabi said to Abu Dhar, أَعَيَّرْتَهُ بِأُمِّهِ إِنَّكَ امْرِئٌ فِيكَ جَاهِلِيَّةٌ. Did you criticize him because of his mother? His mother didn't have anything to do with him being that color. His mother didn't have anything to do with him being a man or girl this tall, this short. That's all what Allah chose. So the one who talks about people and criticizes people because of their color or their sex, you're a person of Jahiliyyah. The Nabi said, you are a person, Abu Dhar, that has Jahiliyyah in you. Jahiliyyah is what happened before Islam. This stuff is not from Islam. If you don't like him, don't let the reason you don't like him be because of his color. That's crazy. Allah chose him. Abu Dhar, he said to the guy who asked him, yeah, but what about the way you're dressed and your slaves dressed? He said, because the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, khawalakum, ikhwanukum khawalakum. جعلهم الله تحت أيديكم فمن كان أخوه تحت يده فليطعمه مما يأكل وليلبسه مما يلبس ولا تكلفوهم ما يغلبهم وإذا كلفتموهم فأعينوهم. He said, the Nabi said about these slaves, he said, these slaves are your responsibility. They're under your supervision, you people. So therefore, if Allah has put one of them under your supervision, then feed them from what you eat and clothe them from what you wear. And don't give them too much work to do. And if you give them work that's a burden for them and it's overwhelming, then you should help your slave. You should help him. So Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu, based upon the kalam of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he dressed his slave similar to the way that he was dressed, giving the man his rights. In the deen of Allah, the slave has been taken care of. He's been looked after. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam also told the owner of the slave, he told the owner of the slave, if your slave brings you your food, tell him, sit down and eat with me. If he refuses out of shyness, give him something and say, go away. And you give him the food. That's the Nabi with the rahmah towards those abid. The last example from the many examples before we take any Q&A questions, inshallah. And there are many. There was a companion, his name was Muawiyah ibn Hakam as-Sulami. Muawiyah ibn Hakam as-Sulami. We're going to talk more about this companion Friday night, inshallah, at Hardtop Road Masjid after Salat al-Isha, concerning where Allah is. Where is Allah? Where is He? This man said, He had a slave girl who he made her responsible for his sheep, and she was out taking care of the sheep, but she was negligent, and a wolf came and took one of the sheep and pulled it off and ate his sheep, ate his money. He said, I am a human being. I get upset like other human beings. So I went to her and I slapped her, but I became sorry for what I did. So I came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and I told the Nabi what happened. I slapped her. I was angry. The Nabi went to the little girl. He said to the little girl, the slave girl, he said, where is Allah? She said, over the heavens. He said, who am I? She said, you're Rasulullah. She didn't say you're the Nur of Allah. She didn't say you're Hazir Nazir. She said, you're Rasulullah. You're Rasulullah. He said to the man, free her, for verily she's a believer. She has the aqeedah of a believer. Knowing where Allah is, she's a slave, but she deserves her freedom. That's a proof. That's a proof of many things. It's a proof that you fathers out there, you mothers, you have to teach your children the proper aqeedah. The Nabi was talking to a little youngster. Abdullah ibn Abbas was on the horse with the Nabi. He said, hey, young boy, little boy, young man, I'm going to teach you some words. Remember Allah, Allah remember you. Remember Allah, you find Allah in front of you. If you ask, ask of Allah. If you seek assistance, you need help, seek it from Allah. And know if all of the community came together to help you, they won't help you with anything except what Allah wrote from you, the qadr. And if they came together to harm you, they can't harm you with anything except what Allah wrote, the qadr. He said the pen has been lifted and the ink is dry. He taught that little boy aqeedah. Al-Iman and the qadr. Don't be afraid. White people, black people, rich people. Don't be afraid of the minority or the majority. You be afraid of Allah. Know your religion. Where Allah is and where He isn't. That's your responsibility with your nephews, with your nieces, with your own children. Don't take it for granted that your children know their religion. So the Nabi, who was a perfect teacher, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, asked the girl, where's Allah? Allah is over the heavens. And who am I? You're Rasulullah. He said to the owner, Muawiyah radiallahu anh, free her. She's a believer. For answering the question the correct way. So what we want to use this hadith for here today is, the girl was in bondage. She was a slave. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he saw that she was hit, and he tested her in that particular way, and she passed the test, she won her freedom. Where is the bloodthirsty individual who these people claim he is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Where is the womanizer that these people claim that he is? Where is this picture and this image of the man who takes advantage of young girls, as these people claim that he was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? All of that is kadhib. Even what they said about our mother Aisha, it's all kadhib. There's an ayat in the Quran in Surah Al-Ahzab. It's about ayat 24, 25, somewhere around there. The rahmah of the Nabi on his family. The rahmah of the Nabi on his family is his rahmah with his wives, with his uncles, with his aunties, with all of the people. Aisha in particular. Aisha. Allah mentioned in the ayat of the Quran, Ya ayyuhan Nabi, قل لأزواجك إن كنتن تردن الله إن كنتن تردن الدنيا إن كنتن تردن الحياة الدنيا وزينتها فتعالين أمتعكن وأسرحكن سراحا جميلا وإن كنتن تردن الله ورسوله والدار الآخرة فإن الله أعد للمحسنات منكن أجرا عظيما. Tell your wives, Nabi, if you women want the dunya, you want this dunya, come, I give you all of the money, all of it, and divorce you. You go and you have the dunya. But if you want Allah, His Messenger, and Yomul, and you want the hereafter, the Jannah, then Allah has prepared a big reward for the muhsina from you. The Nabi, when this ayat was revealed, he went to Aisha first. He said, Aisha, I'm going to read something to you from the Quran, but I don't want you to answer. I want you to go and talk to your parents before you answer. He read that ayat. Now go and decide with your parents. Do you want to stay with me or you want to get out? She said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have to go to my parents for that. I want Allah, I want you, and I want the hereafter. If she was forced in that marriage, if she didn't want to be in that marriage, that was her opportunity to get out of that marriage. In the Quran. In the Quran. If she was forced and compelled and she didn't want it, She was by herself. She could have said gladly, okay, I'm going to go see what my parents have to say. Or she could have said on her own, I want to get out. No, he wasn't bloodthirsty. He wasn't the way these people describe him. But again, they have some excuses because they're victims to their ignorance and victims to the propaganda, the false and negative propaganda of the mass media. So the point here, ikhwani, is rahma, rahma, rahma. Have mercy towards the people who are around you, especially those people who are weaker than you, those who are in need. Your mother, your father, rahma to your mother. You have to go and sit down at your mother's feet, man. And you have to squeeze her feet like that. You have to sit down and squeeze your mother's feet. Give her a massage, not break her feet. Squeeze her feet like that, lovingly, and tell her, Ummi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being a knucklehead. I'm sorry for raising my voice. I'm sorry for losing my temper. I'm sorry, whatever you have to be sorry for. Even if you're a diligent son, Ummi, I'm sorry for not being better, because you deserve it. That's what Allah mentioned in the ayat of the Quran. But we're not going to digress and all that. We'll open up the floor, inshallah, for the next few minutes, 10 minutes or so, for any questions that you brothers may have. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people who have rahmah. He described the Prophet and his believers. Muhammad Rasulullah walladhina amanu walladhina ma'ahu ashidda'u ala al-kuffari ruhama'u bainahum. Muhammad, he's the messenger of Allah. And those who are with him are tough with those kuffar. They're not apologetic. They're tough with them. And they have rahmah amongst themselves. They show rahmah amongst themselves. Rahmah towards the youngsters, rahmah towards the elders, rahmah towards one another. They have rahmah. The one who made a mistake, they have rahmah. And that's what being on the sunnah is. Being on the sunnah is when people make mistakes and they deserve to be advised in a nice way, you advise them in a nice way. Not like we find some people doing. Have rahmah. Have rahmah. Okay, if you brothers, sisters have any questions, you can put them forward now. First of all, there's some benefit, a lot of benefit in slavery. That's the first thing. And Islam didn't come to abolish slavery. It came to organize it and to systemize it, to put in it, make it a humane system. Islam doesn't reject the fact that slavery is a problem. Some of these people who claim that they love the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they brag about wanting to be the dog of the Nabi, the dog of the Nabi, the snake of the Nabi, the lizard of the Nabi, the shoe of the Nabi. Wallahi, ikhwani, none of us should even want to be the slave of the Nabi. If you're a free man, there's no equivalent to your freedom. Hurriya. A slave doesn't have the ability to get married when he wants, to who he wants, and how he wants. The slave in Islam can't make Hajj when he wants, can't make Umrah when he wants. The slave will not give Allah his rights until he gives his master his rights. In Islam, the slave that runs away, he's called Abiq. Abiq. He ran away from his master, Muslim slave, he ran away. If a slave ran away and escaped, his salat is not accepted until he comes back in the deen of Allah. So no sane human being, after Allah has given him freedom, hurriya, will want to be a slave to anybody. But if I had to be a slave, I don't mind being the slave to the Nabi if I had to be a slave. But as a free man, I don't want to be the slave of anybody. The other thing is, don't equate slavery in Islam with the movie Roots. I don't know if you guys saw that, Roots from America. It's different. Slavery in Islam is not synonymous with black people or the slaves. Why we have to be the slaves? No, that's what happened in that case in America. So slavery is not synonymous with any color of people. What's the benefit of slavery? Muslims go and we fight the enemy. After the Muslims subdue them and defeat them, what are we going to say to them? Those who didn't die. We're going to say to them, okay, go back home and get strong and come back another day and kill us? This is what we're going to say? Okay, we beat you. We killed your son. We killed your mother. We killed your son. We killed the other. Now go back and get strong. 2-3 years, come back and get us? No. We're going to subdue you because you were opposing Allah and His messenger. You were opposing Allah and His messenger. And the Nabi, he told us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ajib Allahu min qawmin yanqaduna ila al-jannah fi salasil. Allah is ajib. He's amazed. From His characteristics, He is amazed in a way that befits His majesty. He's amazed at a group of people who go into Jannah in chains. Meaning, they were slaves that Muslims took, and because of mixing with the Muslims, they accepted Islam. And once they accept Islam, as a slave, he has all kinds of rights and opportunities to get his freedom. If you want to do sadaqah, just free a slave. So Aisha used to go and spend money freeing slaves. If a man breaks his fast and he wasn't supposed to, he just ate and he wasn't supposed to eat in Ramadan, you have to fast 2 months consecutively. If you don't have that ability, you have to free a slave. So you got a way to get free. If you kill someone who doesn't deserve to be killed by mistake, free a slave. The slave, if you see in him some benefit, it's wajib for him. They call the slave in the Quran the mukatib. You see some good in him, and he comes to his master and say, hey, I want to make an agreement to win my freedom. I'm going to plant for you 300 palm trees, 300 date palm trees. I'm going to plant them. And then when they yield their produce and I take them and bring them to you, I get free. And then this guy, he relies on some of his brothers, his relatives, or himself. And they plant those trees and he gets out of slavery. So Islam came to organize the system, to give them rights. And the United Nations, they don't have the ability to abolish slavery in Islam. But I want to make this clear to you. I'm not here saying to you people, go make somebody a slave. I'm not here. That's not the dawah. That's not the call here. The talk is about how the Nabi during that time dealt with slaves. And there's no slavery that's being done properly in the world today by Muslims. In Mauritania, they have slaves right now. But not only Muslims, there's the sex slave trade with Eastern Europeans, with Chinese people, all kind of stuff. There's a lot of slavery that's going on right now at this moment, but people don't have any rights. So don't think that that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a system in Islam, and Allah knows best.